Hello, YouTube, and happy Sunday. It is a chilly, rainy Sunday, November evening here in the DMV. And tonight, I just like to do a quick test OBS Studio screen recording video. I like to do a number of different videos using this setup on my Dell Optiplex 9020 running Ubuntu 24.04, where I show you some software or some web page, even potentially screen recording over HDMI from my Toshiba satellite or IBM WorkPad Z50, and have in the lower right hand corner, as you're all looking, a webcam showing myself talking about whatever demo I'm doing. And just for this test video, I'd like to go through Sheldon Brown's Raleigh 20 page, as I did a 2.5 mile test ride of my Rockville Bike Hub Raleigh 20 today. And I'll just tell you, I was really impressed. I had done a previous video that you all might have seen of the Huffy Therese that I fixed up and sold a couple years back, and I expected the 20 to be similar. I expected with the small chrome wheels and the pretty heavy high-ten frame that it would feel pretty slow, especially going up and down hills. But I felt it was quite fast. I mean, I still haven't used a GPS to track how fast I was going, but it was nowhere near as slow, heavy, and painful as the Touriste was. And I think really a big part of that was my replacement of the seat post. I'm just showing Sheldon Brown's seat post here. My replacement of the original steel seat post with a longer alloy seat post that's 450 millimeters long and gives the right leg reach. I'm 5'10", but I have pretty long legs, so I really needed an extended seat post. And the original saddle I know people complain about, but I didn't think it was too bad. It's a mattress saddle with some springs in the back. With that said, I'll just walk you all through Sheldon Brown's Raleigh 20 page for anyone who really likes riding old bikes, fixing up old bikes, uh, foaming. What's the word? There's transit foamers or people I think who have seizures because they get so excited about trains. Metaphorical seizures. So if you're, a bike obsessed person like a transit foamer, this is the page for you. You can find every detail you'd want about different types of parts and bikes and how to fix them up and build them. So you've been watching here for the past 3 minutes is Sheldon Brown's souped-up 8-speed Raleigh 20 with a bottle cage up front, I think butterfly bars up top, an 8-speed Sturmey Archer hub, alloy wheels, a suspension, fork, a new 3-piece crank, and what I think is a new longer seat post, and Brooks saddle that Sheldon Brown built up after riding these for many years. For those who don't know, the Raleigh 20 is a folding bike and probably the most popular folding bike of the 60s, 70s, and potentially early 80s. Originally, Moulton bicycles were popular in England, and Raleigh tried competing with something called the Raleigh RSW16. I think that's Raleigh small wheels, and that was not really successful. So they decided to build as a competitor to the Moulton the Raleigh 20 that has 20-inch wheels, which are much better on tough surfaces, as I can imagine you'd find in England and the UK and Ireland, compared with 16-inch wheels. While, as Sheldon states here, the 20 was not nearly as sophisticated a design as the Moulton, but there was a visual resemblance. While the 20 lacked the Moulton's full suspension, it was inexpensive and rugged and fun to ride. And I can say just from, several days experience, I can absolutely say that's the case. The 20 superficially resembles many inexpensive European 20-inch folders of the era, but the frame and hinge are much more solid than with most of these. It's, as you can see up here, it is a horizontal hinge as opposed to a vertical one. 20-inch wheels were easy to get tires for, and tires held up quite well. what I love about and exactly what Sheldon's saying here is a stock Raleigh 20 offers performance comparable to that of a 26-inch wheel 3-speed sports bike like a Raleigh Sports, Raleigh Superb, Raleigh DL1. I've seen these, but I haven't really ridden them. But due to its robust, well-designed frame, it lends itself to being hopped up in performance by upgrading components. With suitable equipment, it can approach the performance of a Bike Friday, quite an expensive folding bike, at a much lower price. I mean, mine was $50. I talk to people in the UK and they say I can find these in the back of a trash bin. I can get these for $10 or $20. They're incredibly common. What's unfortunate though is the bottom bracket is not something really common. For one thing, the cups have 126 TPI threading, which is Raleigh's proprietary standard. It's I think sometimes called Wentworth threading or CEI Cycle Engineering Institute threading. And if that isn't bad enough, the shells are also rather wider than standard. They're 76 millimeter as opposed to 68 or 73. There are a few options there, but honestly, I decided not to go with any of these. I was fortunate that the crank I had was still in really good condition. The cotters I was able to remove relatively easily, so I think I'm just going to stick with that. But if you wanted, you could face down your shell to 73 millimeters. Just cut off a few millimeters. Was it 1.5, 2 millimeters on each side, and you can mount a typical uh, uh, 73 millimeter shell Philwood 26 TPI bottom bracket, or you can rethread your bottom bracket shell to take a ISO standard 24 TPI bottom bracket, and I guess also face the shell, something like that. But I decided not to go the complicated way. If you watch my prior video, I didn't use my Raleigh 20 has BMX brakes that are long reach that can handle ISO 406 rims. In addition, it has what's called a drop bolt to help hang those down because the UK Raleigh 20s had ISO 451 20-inch wheels, so you didn't really need a drop bolt mounted there. ISO 406 is smaller, so you need these metal supports in order to get the brake closer to the smaller wheel. And if I wanted, I could add some longer ones and put on some really nice short reach dual pivot side pulls that would give even better stopping power on chrome rims. That's the other thing. Although my bike still has the standard chrome rims, I was also thinking about getting rid of those. I might do that in the future because they're heavy and they don't stop well in the rain. Despite that, I've gotten pretty decent stopping power even at relatively high speed. So I don't think I'll change that very soon. Part of it is my bike has cool stop brake pads on the back, and I might also add those on the front or put on some Fibrax leather insert pads that are good in the rain. Just some additional brake recommendations. Different types of handlebars. I'm pretty sure mine is a one-piece bar stem unit that I don't know what all-rounders are. They are pretty light and stiff. What's interesting is they don't really have a quill. There's just a quick release not even a quick release, just like a bolted clamp that used to tighten it down to keep it from moving from side to side. I think I'll stick with those because replacing with the handlebars and the fork is kind of a pain. It says that you can replace the handlebars with any that use a quill stem. I mean, I might go for that. You can see an example here, and then have upturned drop bars. I might do that. I mean, I think as far as an upgrade, I like the bars they have now, but this is relatively non-invasive. I've heard replacing the fork is kind of a giant pain. Because the well frame, a stem that rises to normal handlebar height will be long and flexible. Not good. Raleigh's original high-rise handlebar avoids this problem by allowing a shorter stem. You could also invert drop bars, trimming an inch or two off the ends so they don't interfere with your wrists when you are riding on the drops. Those and something like, it's butterfly bars, you'd still need a longer stem. The ends of the bars face the rear, so the hoods are not at the top as usual. We're not talking here about the common practice among novices of rotating drop bars so the ends face forward. Yeah, I don't do that, and he explains why. Okay, I talked about wheels, 406 versus 451. 451 tires are really hard to find. 451 wheels are really hard to find, at least in the United States. 406 are super common. Those are BMX rims. I've seen alloy ones in the bike co-op at Rockville Bike Hub that I might consider relacing with some new hubs. But even then, he talks about this later. The rear dropout is made for a flatted axle, an 8 millimeter flat axle, really 10 millimeters, but flatted on two sides, so you can slide that in and not have to worry about the axle rotating, which is a problem with the three-speed hub. So I might, think about filing those down to fit more types of hubs, but pretty much if you want to, you'd have to swap rims and keep a Sturmey Archer AW like my bike has, or something, another similar Sturmey Archer hub with a flatted axle. There's, I think, the same situation in the front. Okay, the stock steel rims are very heavy and don't provide good braking. The most valuable upgrade to these bikes is to replace the rims with lightweight aluminum ones and install better tires. That's a great point. So I mentioned aluminum rims. I might also, actually, I don't need to do this. The bike I found had Schwalbe Marathon Racer tires on each rim, so I'm pretty much good as far as tires. I won't have to worry about a tire bursting or going flat under most circumstances. The seat post, I mentioned I upgrade mine is 1 1/8 or 28.6 millimeters. It was only $20 for a nice long one, which is fantastic. Long-legged Sheldon used to have to extend the stock seat post by attaching smaller seat posts to the top of it, but now, thanks to mountain bikes and oversized designs, suitable Marne aluminum seat posts are available from stock for a reasonable price. Okay, so more about securing the seat post, rear triangle. There's this, for the original front fork, I think that comes up later, there's a similar unusual keyhole kind of shape for a certain type of Raleigh hub and axle. It's a good idea to plug the holes in the frame tubes. Unlike with most frames, the chain stays, and with the 20, their extension ahead of the bottom bracket do not drain into the bottom bracket shell. Moisture can collect and rust these tubes out. That is not good. Also, be sure to plug the seat post, as already mentioned. Yeah, absolutely. I've had rain go down open top seat post just through lack of awareness, and ended up having to replace a bottom bracket on a bike that was significantly easier to fix. I was surprised that when I repacked the bottom bracket on mine, there's almost no damage to the races. I was really surprised because these bikes just keep going and going. Mine's 54 years old. I imagine it's been ridden quite a lot. This is the hinge key that fortunately is not 26 TPI. It is 3/8 by 20 TPI threading. He gives some directions for how to make your own. You just basically, unscrew this from the other part of the frame, and then you can slide the two plates relative to each other and use that to fold up the bike. It doesn't fold up too compactly, but well enough to fit in the back of a car. The washer shown on top. Washer shown goes on top of the upper threaded insert to improve engagement. Upper threaded insert to improve engagement. Without this washer, tightening the hinge becomes more difficult. Any 3/8 or 10 millimeter washer may serve as a replacement. There's a nicer picture of the hinge key. Now this is really important. The hinge pivots on a stud, and you want to make sure that bottom nut on the stud pivot is locked in place. It does say here that it's secured by a nylon locking nut, so technically it shouldn't come out easily, but I just double check and make sure that's not going to fall off. Or this can happen. and you can still get out of that, but it's not fun. That's it, going back earlier. I, as Sheldon mentioned, I don't know of any other folding bikes from the 60s and 70s that had, a horizontal as opposed to a vertical hinge, which is pretty interesting. I think is what gives these such good ride quality because it's a nice rigid frame. Stock fork he doesn't like so much. It's of mediocre quality but serviceable. As spacing for Raleigh proprietary hub, narrower and with a skinnier axle than most hubs, as I mentioned. The front hubs are pretty decent, but if you want to upgrade to a more modern hub, you have to cold set or bend the fork blades, spread the fork blades to the now standard 100 millimeter spacing, and file the axle slots to fit a 9 millimeter axle. Here's an example of a really souped up front fork with brazed on brake bosses and fender eyelets. That's, quite a nice job there. This person has cantilever front brakes on their 20. Then replacing the fork, I mean, he mentions replacing the fork, but from what I've read elsewhere, someone just had, like cascading problems with the size of the steering tube and so on. The headset's kind of cute. It's got nylon bushing, so you have like, what was it? Twitchiness. The extra friction of this bushing plus the geometry of the stock fork make it impossible to ride a stock 20 no hands. I'm not up to doing that, but if you wanted to, you can get a threadless top headset, and then I guess you'd have to replace the stem because you no longer have a bolt down clamp holding the original stem handlebar combo in place. These tended to come with Pletcher CS racks that are common in the 70s. I've used these before and had pretty bad luck. I mean, if you carry more than a little, they'll shake side to side and bend, and then you try to take them off and bend this back and snap, it falls apart. I got a more modern alloy folding bike rack that I'm going to mount with some P-clamps. I biked over to Lowe's and picked up some P-clamps for that. So I look forward to showing that to you and really showing my Raleigh after I've done a full restoration. This is really cool. There's a Pletcher plate that lets you bolt down the end of a Pletcher rack. I don't think I'll end up using that, but if you had a similar sort of rack with an end plate and properly spaced holes, I mean, hopefully something standard you could put, bolts through and lock it immediately to the rear stays really securely. Rat trap sprung wire clip at the rear. That's kind of cute, the two reflectors here. CS rack has drill tab at the rear, but taillight and reflector underneath the rack is shown below or protected from damage. Oh, I see. So one's a taillight, one's a reflector. Got it. It's not just cute. 20 was sold with heavy steel fenders. You can get other alternatives and secure them with P-clamps. I guess secured by clips. Another thing to note is, oh wow, what's the word for that? Hollow spacer with a through bolt at the front of the rear fender places the fender sits at an appropriate distance from the tire. Yeah, extensions to the fender brackets are necessary to get a good fit. Extensions to fender brackets are necessary to get a good fit over the wheels, as shown in the photos above. Yeah, so I saw some nice chrome fenders that are heavy, but look good and should do a good job keeping me from getting dusty, dirty, and wet. That I'll install, but I'm going to make sure to get a nylon spacer from Lowe's once I've purchased those. Sheldon has had a ton of 20s, and including a fixed gear one, and there were non-folding Raleigh 20s. These are sold under a ton of different names. Triumph Traffic Master, Raleigh Shopper. I think there was a BSA 20. As you all might know, Raleigh bought up all these different bicycle manufacturers in Britain like Hercules and BSA and Phillips and so on, Triumph. So there are many different Raleigh 20s with different names. He mentions adding aluminum rims, Chinelli handlebars, and stem, as well as a Campi Nuovo Record crankset, Philwood bomb bracket, and other stuff too. One This is just super, super cool. This fixed gear Raleigh 20 with, try not, why am I forgetting names of handlebars here? Those might just be bar end extensions. Fixed gear Raleigh 20, and then like I showed you in the beginning, a Raleigh 20 with a Sturmey Archer 8-speed internal hub. You can even see a matching red pump back there, 3-piece crank, suspension seat post to give it really nice ride quality. He mentioned that he had these at 120 psi. I bet that ride's kind of harsh, and you need a suspension to keep to reduce the blows in your arms. It's kind of interesting there. You can see the what looks to me like a twist shifter for the rear hub on the left side of those butterfly bars. He was working on another 70s Raleigh 20, and then here's a friend of his who is still using this fixer-upper Raleigh 20 that now has drop bars, and that's awesome. You know, you get road bike positioning even in a folding bike like this. Anyway, there's lots of great information about Raleigh 20s, about other Raleighs, Sturmey Archer hubs. I learned from Steve Andruski and Rockville Bike Hub that Sturmey and Archer were employees of Raleigh who invented the Sturmey Archer hub. It sort of reminds me of Hewlett Packard, you know, some inventor duo. There's just a lot of great information here about Raleighs and other classic bikes, and it's a great information source for those of us, you know, who are restoring and rebuilding these bikes. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend this website. You really can't miss it. And with that, thank you for watching. I hope this was a great demo of OBS Studio and you enjoyed going through Sheldon Brown's Raleigh 20 bicycle page. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe as always. Have a good one.